What's the ROI in those hundreds of hours you put into speaking to a woman who you don't really care about? You just want to get naked with her.
Can I bring up an interesting counter argument to that?
Well, I'd love to hear it, mate.
Let's hear it. So,
I imagine you put a fair few hours into these things.
So
that's why you hired Casey to do it for you. So you don't got to do it.
So you strike me as a guy who grew up naturally pretty confident in high school or whatever, primary school, whatever you call it.
I was a bit of a nerd, man. I
mean, everyone thinks they're a nerd, but like by and large, you were probably more confident and had better social skills than the average person, or no?
Yeah, I was not lonely for
you were
attention
pretty
with
naturally
women.
pretty alpha, naturally pretty outgoing.
I wouldn't say I was alpha, brother. Like the army made me a lot more of a masculine man. I grew up single parent household, blue pill, all that stuff.
So let me get to my point. I have either wasted or not, depending how you look at it, countless hours talking to dumb hoes in nightclubs. So the greatest journey, the greatest transformation I ever had in my life was the journey of cold approach pickup. For the guys that don't know, that means you go into a social environment, nightclub, house party, whatever, daytime shopping mall, and you try to bring positive emotions and positive vibes to strangers, to girls, mixed sets to guys and girls. So you're over there. There's these cool people in Vegas partying, and you have to go up and make them accept you. It's kind of like sales. How can I go over to these people who already have their own fun, their own party? A stranger is going to infiltrate that group, and by providing funny stories, good vibes, whatever other value you can provide, you're going to make them accept you into your group.
You're talking about heightened social and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, so the same way that people dedicate hours upon hours into guitar or volleyball or coding PHP, whatever it is, I mastered my social skills by talking to stupid hoes in nightclubs and going up like, oh, fuck, I feel nervous. I don't know what to say. I'm just, oh, fuck, okay, here I go. And I just go in there and just talk to them and just vomit comes out. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. But overall, I learned to be charismatic, how to make people like me. I can start a conversation with strangers now pretty easily. I can, talk to you folks pretty well, pretty confident. So what would you say there? I mean, that's a lot of hours. Are they wasted hours?
Yep,
or?
I'd love to speak to that. So definitely, I can see how the pursuit of women can lead to increasing your social and emotional intelligence. I've never done cold approach, but I'm also able to go into a group of people and create that rapport, those positive emotions. So yes, it is one way with which to develop those capabilities, but it's not the only way. That's what I'd say to that.
Sure. Okay, and it's hard to, how would you say specifically for women to develop those capabilities if it wasn't?
Women don't need those.
Women don't.
Do you think women need social skills?
No, I'm talking about women. I'm talking about as a guy who wants to develop social skills, particularly around women. So maybe you can already talk to guys in the boardroom, you're confident around men, but you're not confident around women, and you want to become super confident around women. How do you do that without wasting hours of time talking to dumb hoes and nightclubs?
I think you need to embrace a little bit of misogyny. I think the reason that...
Let's call it realism. Let's call it realism, please.
This is real. Like, you need to be a little bit misogynistic because... maybe not the Western idea of this term, but if you realize that most women are stupid and have nothing in their brains and they're programmed by some man, a lot of them are ran through, a lot of them are not going to add anything to your life. They're not going to be all autistic when you talk, because you don't really need their validation, right? If you just see them as like another person, like, hey, stupid, then you don't care, and then you get to talk to them like you would talk to like your friends, then that anxiety level drops. As long as that anxiety level's down and you talk to them like
so you're gonna take a nervous guy and say, hey, listen, nervous guy, I'm Sneako, your pickup coach. Just remember that
why
you're
is he
talking
nervous?
to a women are intimidating to guys.
Exactly. So you need to embrace misogyny. He's intimidated by women because he thinks that the women that he's talking to are better than him. Once you start being misogynistic, you realize this is just a girl with a little tight dress on.
But you understand that just telling
she
him
bought this
that
at Shein.
I agree with you, but how are you going to unprogram that from a guy who's just
embrace misogyny?
Make men misogynistic again.
Make men misogynistic again. Exactly. Once you start to realize that these are just girls walking around with nothing in their heads, they just repeat what they saw.
I think you need to
keeping up with the Kardashians.
I would just say you need to experience them to realize that. You can't just realize that because Sneako told you on a live stream.
I think it's one way to do it, but I also know men who are Muslims and who are virgins, and they have got game for days. They have completely seen that they are the ones with the value. They're the ones with the accolades. They're the ones who've struggled. They are realistic. And they in no way are like, oh, wow, it's a woman. She sits on something that I want to have access to. But these are very religious men. They have a lot of very powerful men around them. There are numerous ways to get over this whole mental thirst or physical thirst that a lot of men have, not just through dating and running through hundreds of women. There are many different ways to get there.
I would make the argument that some men can just be, I think Sneako is more naturally confident. I just see that, I don't know, maybe
I had some autistic nerd too.
Everyone says that.
No, really,
you.
bro. I grew up I look
really?
like Chris Brown, kind of like light skin now. I grew up as the Asian dude with braces and glasses. Like
fair enough.
In Connecticut where it's mostly white.
Everyone thinks I had my awkward phase. 100%. Your awkward phase is probably less than the awkward phase.
I had a Blasian fro when I was Asian. Like 100%. I walked in, people didn't know what race I was.
Bro, I got picked on as a kid. I was geeky. I was awkward.
Sure. Everyone think, okay, but
I actually
what I'm
was,
saying
mate.
is, I think there are some people who can get it through religion, who can get it through maybe they dominate in sports, maybe they dominate in business, and they can just get that confidence. And more power to them. If you don't have to waste the hours talking to hoes, then don't do it. I would make the argument that most guys probably need a little bit of that just to. And I think Myron, when you would probably, I mean, you're an old school cold approach guy like me, right? What are your thoughts on this?
It's a skill set that you should have. I think it's definitely a skill set you should have because, and here's the thing, Sneako's been saying you got to embrace being misogynistic. I think you got to embrace being realistic, man. I don't think it's misogynistic because you don't hate women. I think it's more along the lines of you understand most of them are useless and they don't bring much value. And I agree with you. Most girls are literally useless because they never had to be useful. So, but a way that you're going to understand that. Because here's the thing. Some guys know that from watching this podcast because this stuff has become broadcasted. Some guys need to go out there and talk to a lot of women and figure out, damn, a lot of y'all really are retarded. What the hell am I doing here? So a lot of guys got to, put their hand on the stove and get burned. But yeah, I think it is a good skill set though, because if you can go ahead and generate a conversation with someone who's brain dead moron, right? It's going to make you a sharper individual in general. It's going to make you it's going to force you to be charismatic. It's going to force you to be charming. It's going to force you to be able to think under pressure, etc. So I think, and not necessarily it's about talking to the girl to like talk to the girl. I think the lessons learned and the skill sets learned from dealing with such a brain dead individual a lot of the times, and someone that's interesting that doesn't have hobbies, which most women are. Let's just keep it 1,000.
Like
most
a
girls
monologue sometimes, not even a two-way conversation.
Yeah, it's literally so. Like, what'll end up happening is you will become more skilled at being charismatic and being able to control a conversation and dictate a conversation to a certain point. So I would look at it not necessarily as like I'm doing this to get the girl. Do it more as in I'm going to become better at telling stories. I'm going to become better at being charming. I'm going to be better at being charismatic, etc. Because this girl is, because if you could do it with a girl who's brain dead, well, when you do find a girl that's not an idiot, it'll be even better.
Walking up to a group of strangers at a club and making them like you is a skill that can be used in all
it's a good skill.
Things. You have to be dominant. You have to get their attention. You have to talk loudly.
Yeah.
You have to accept the burden of the conversation. And like you're gonna get rejected.
Using proper tonality.
People who thought I was a fucking weirdo and just couldn't wait for me to leave. You read those social cues and you go, nice meeting you, and then you leave.
Because a lot of guys,
it's a difficult thing.
And let me say this too, because and I'm really glad that you brought this up. So like with women, right? If I told a guy, in 20 years, you're going to have to get in a ring and fight someone who's a 10-degree black belt, right? What would you do? You'd probably train, right? You would go ahead and you go to the dojo, wax on, wax off. You'd hire your own Mr. Miyagi. You figure this out, right? But a lot of guys don't. And what ends up happening is I consider women black belts when it comes to social interaction, reading social dynamics, etc.
It's how they've stayed alive throughout the history.
Yeah, it's how they stay alive. So not only do they have the biological programming and evolution, they also get it because by the time they hit puberty, they get hit on by a bunch of weirdos. So women become very good at deciphering which guys are losers, which guys aren't, or which guys are good at putting up a certain image that they're that guy, right? So the point is they're able to identify it very quickly. So for men, most guys, even the guys that are out there that are the most charismatic, most charming, done the most approaches, they're not getting even a fraction of the same interaction that women do with the opposite gender. So guys really got to get out there and practice and talk. I'm not saying you got to get out there and talk to a million women, but you should have some semblance of how to start a conversation, hold a conversation, build the traction, etc.